Hello, my name is Jim. I live in Texas. And this YouTube video is a review of the Ninja 250. Part 1 will be a general review of the bike, and Part 2 will be a review of my specific gear that I have to go with it. I'm making this video in the face of overwhelming demand from the YouTube user community. Well, okay, one fella suggested it, but in the Air Force we used to say one data point's enough to make a trend. I thought I'd start by reading from the MOM, the Motorcycle Owner's Manual. Just some of the specifications of the bike. It's 80 inches overall length. It's basically 28 inches wide. Its dry weight is 304 pounds. It's very light, and one of the nicest things about it. It's got a 2-cylinder, 4-stroke liquid-cooled engine, 250 cc's displacement, 12.4 to 1 electric starter, but it still uses 12.4 to 1 compression ratio and electric starter. Even with that high compression ratio, it still runs on the regular, which is really nice. 2 carburetors. It's got a transistor ignition system. And it uses 10W40 oil is what they recommend. We'll talk more about oil maybe in the future. And a 6-speed transmission with a wet clutch. That's the basic specifications of it. Tire size, it has 16-inch wheels, as opposed to 17-inch on most modern motorcycles. The normal tires for it are 180 on the front and 130/80 on the back. This is fitted with slightly larger tires. They're 90 millimeters wide instead of 80. And those fit fine, and a lot of us Ninja riders think they do a little better job. So that's the basic overall view of the Ninja 250. Now I will up here magically point out some of the things I like about it. It has first of all, we're talking about the Generation 1 Ninja. This Ninja was made from roughly, I think, 1988 through 2007 model year. 2008, significant changes were made in the Ninja, so this is a Generation 1 Ninja that we're reviewing here. You can see it has it has a center stand and a side stand. It's got passenger pegs here and here. It's got 4 little hooks for hooking things over the seat. The new Ninjas, I think, only have 2, which is a step backwards in my estimation. There is a oil check window here. Probably can't see it on the video, excuse me. Yeah, but that's how you check your oil. Look at that sight gauge. The oil is entered into the motor here with this little thing here. This is Jim. I live in Texas, and this is a look at the Farkles, or the modifications on my Ninja 250 motorcycle. The first one you can see here is this is from what's called a Mike windshield, because a fellow named Mike makes them. They're about 50 bucks, and it's a touring windshield. I'll compare this with, there's the stock windshield. You can see it's quite a bit larger. It makes it a lot more comfortable. On long drives. Maybe you get slightly less buffeting and beating about the head and shoulders with the touring windshield. You get more of a laminar flow across the top of your helmet rather than a turbulent flow against your chest. So it's real nice. Okay, let's look at the cockpit here a little more closely. You can see a couple of things. Probably the most noticeable thing is the GPS unit here on this ram ball mount. This is an adapter. It plugs into a hole that's intended for a mirror. You get it from a fellow named Motorcycle Larry. If you just Google Motorcycle Larry, you'll find his page and you'll see this. He makes a lot of nice high precision hardware for lots of motorcycles, including the Ninja 250. Another part Motorcycle Larry has that I got is the bar risers. If you look closely, you can see there's a little machine block of metal here that raises the handlebars about 1 inch. Now, Ninja 250 has a fairly high mounted bars to begin with, what's called the standard or UJM position. So that's the stock bar. It normally mounts down a little bit lower, but I've added these riser blocks so they move it up another inch. Gives me a very upright riding position. Here on this right handlebar, I have what's called a cramp buster. This makes it a lot more comfortable on long trips. I'm a computer programmer by trade. I got a little bit of carpal tunnel in my hand, and this just makes it ever so much more comfortable. Another modification I made, which we'll try to see here, is to the horn. I replaced the stock Ninja horn, which is like the size of a 50-cent piece. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a what's called a freeway blaster horn in there now. I'll honk it. And it is something you can get for $15 from Advanced Auto Parts or any auto parts store. And it's a little bit louder horn, much louder, in fact, much louder than the stock horn, and it's a bolt-in replacement. It just bolts right in. Got to bend the bracket ever so slightly, and you're done with that. So those are my cockpit modifications. We'll go back and we'll talk about the XOG GPS, but we'll make another video just for that at some future date. Another modification that I've made to this bike is to the headlight system. This is the normal low beam, pretty standard. Now watch what happens when I put the high beam on. This is called a headlight modulator. It's completely legal. The one I got is made from a company called Kaisan, K-I-S-A-N. My friend Craig, who's a long-time motorcycler, urged me to get this. I really was skeptical about it. I almost didn't want to, but he's the kind of guy where he'll just work you to death until you give in. So I gave in and got this. It cost about $80. I'm glad I did. What it's doing is modulating the headlight. This has two good things about it, one minor and one major. The minor thing is your high beams last longer because they're not putting out as much net power since they're dimmed half the time. And again, this is completely legal in every state in the union. The big thing is people notice this. They notice it a lot more than your regular high beam. And when you're in a busy place with cars coming at you from all directions, or just going down the neighborhood street like this one, and a lady's backing out of the driveway, they'll see this and they won't see your headlight. I've really noticed it. I've had one case where I was kind of in the wrong side of town, and I turned my high beam on like this, and the car in front of me pulled over because they thought I was a policeman. That's the only time I've heard of that happen, and it sort of happened once, I think, for me. You do want to be courteous, and if you're behind somebody for a while and there's not a lot of other cars around, you want to put your low beam on. It also has a light sensor. This is the light sensor here. You can see it here. There we go. That little brass thing is a light sensor. So at night, this thing will not flash. So that's a light sensor. It only flashes if I cover it up with my finger. You see it will stop flashing. When I bought my motorcycle, I wasn't sure what I wanted, to be perfectly honest. I didn't know what I'd prefer for commuting, just riding on the twisty roads near the house, just being like a Harley guy and riding to the bar on Friday night, 10 miles and drinking beer and then riding home and hoping I don't get caught. Oh, I'm sorry, Harley guys. I shouldn't stereotype. That's bad. There's one Harley guy who does that. The rest of them are fine. What I found I liked, and different people like different things about motorcycles, just like any other avocation, is I like to go places on this motorcycle. I like to go a long way, so I got these bags. These are my second set of saddlebags. The first set were sort of a disaster. They were larger than this. I bought them on eBay, and the good thing about it is they'd hold a full-face helmet. The bad thing was they were a little too big, and they sagged, got on my muffler, and slimed my muffler a little bit. These Nelson Rig bags are much higher quality than the generic ones from eBay. They're really good bags. And I carry lots of stuff in these. Oh, here's some stuff I bought at Fry's today. But that's a little kind of plastic bag you can put the contents on. It's got a little pocket there. I can use this bicycle chain to lock my jacket to the bike when I want to leave it out with the bike. This is a generic magnetic mount tank bag that I got from Cycle Gear store here in Austin. This worked real well. As fast as I've gone, it's never bulged. Text tag, that's a toll tag here in Austin. Other things you see I have in there, Advil. You got to have that for long rides until I get a better seat. The seats are good for about 450 miles, and then I start to scream in pain. Earplugs, don't leave home without them. A pen. I keep my gas receipts in here just to keep track of my mileage, just for fun. It's been running about 51, 52, which is low, far lower than what most people get with this bike, and I can only attribute that to my heavier weight than a lot of the people who ride these. Most people get 60 to 70. I get about low 50s.